In this video, I will show you some basic techniques for using the swept boss/base tool. You at this point should already know how to do extrudes and revolves and be pretty comfortable with those. And so I'll show you what we can do today with sweeps. That's generally how I refer to them, is a sweep. What a sweep requires is some sort of profile and some sort of path. And so here we'll sketch the path to this sweep, something like that. And then we need some sort of profile. First, I'll just show you how to do a circular profile because you can actually do that in the sweep tool. So we've got our path here. If I go to our features and the sweep feature, if I just select circular profile, all I need to do is select that path and I can easily define the diameter of that circle and it will do the sweep for me. Okay, so if you ever need to do a circular profile for a tube or a wire or something, I would recommend just doing it right here by selecting circular profile. But if you need a different shape, okay, that's where you'll need to do sketch profile, and you'll actually have to define that profile using a sketch. And it comes in handy when you want to do that. It comes in handy to know how to insert planes pretty well. So if you're not already comfortable inserting planes, I would recommend going to Lab 5 and watching the video on inserting planes and maybe even axes, because it's really going to come into play here when we start doing sweeps and lofts. It's really going to be pertinent that you understand how to do this. So if I want to insert a plane here, I can select that point in there and it'll actually go normal to whatever profile I've got. So that's what I want to do. And then if I sketch on here, I can actually sketch whatever I want, whatever shape, okay? Within reason, it can't be huge, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But with that, I've got that shape, and as long as it wasn't too big, I should be able to select this as the profile. And let's see if it'll do it. It looks like, oh, looks like it did it. It's a little bit of a weird shape, but there you go. You can see that in the preview. And it's having a little bit of a difficult time rebuilding right now. But that's the shape we end up with. Okay, I don't know why you would want something like that, but you know, to each his own. I said you have to do it within reason, the size within reason, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's go here and I'll sketch something again with some sort of radius on it. Okay, so I finished that sketch. Take a look, we've got a radius of 1 inch on here. The rest of this stuff, and the reason I didn't fully define this is because the rest doesn't really matter, but we need to keep in mind that the radius on this curve is 1 inch, okay? And so now, if I go ahead and exit this sketch, and then I go forward to creating some sort of profile, I'm just gonna, actually, I'll just do a circular profile just to show you. What did we say our radius was? It was 1 inch. So let's go, let's just show you what happens when this gets bigger and bigger, okay? So we're at 0.2, now we're at a ½ inch, okay? And now we're at 1 inch. All right, so you can see that that would work, but if I go bigger, such that I get to 2 inches, notice what happens, okay? And it will work with 2 inches, okay? Why is 2 inches significant? Because the radius here is 1 inch. We've got a 2 inch diameter, which means the radius of this is 1 inch as well. So you can see from here to here is 1 inch, so it works. But if I were to make that any larger, it would fail. And that's because we're creating some sort of intersecting geometry here as it goes around that curve. And so that's what I meant earlier when I said your profile has to be within reason. And it could be any shape. I could do some sort of square, but I just have to make sure that that square isn't so big that it intersects itself as it goes around, or a triangle, or whatever shape I want. So that's one common error that I see when people are doing sweeps, is they don't take into account the size of their curves versus the size of their profiles. Okay. Another thing we can do with sweeps are sweep cuts, which just like extrudes and extrudes cuts, revolves cuts are very similar. A place where this might be applicable somewhere in this class is when you're making your marble track. If you'd like to create a shape on here where it cuts out some sort of, wavy track in here, I can easily just sketch that on this face. And I have to exit our sketch here, do a sweep cut, and I don't know why that sketch not showing, but 1 second, circular profile. Now let's grab that sketch. Okay, so sorry, I went a little bit fast there. It's just like the sweep, except you use sweep cut. And again, I'm doing a circular profile. I can do whatever profile I want. You're probably most likely just going to do a circular profile if you're making a marble track or something. And then I selected that sketch as my path. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and we're good to go there. Let's view this from a different angle so I can show you some of the different things that'll happen when you mess around with the settings here. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Notice how, so if viewed from the top, this is what, 0.6 inches in diameter. Okay. So from here to here is 0.6 inches. Okay. But if I look at it from the side, it looks a little bit wider than 0.6 inches. And that's because of a setting we've got in our sweep cut. Under these options here, it's something called align with edge end faces. And so what it's doing is it's essentially going all the way through and then just cutting off, what it doesn't need. I'll just show you what happens if I deselect that. Okay, you can see the difference in shape there. Is it just goes from the beginning of that path all the way through to the end of that path, and it doesn't align anything here. It just preserves that same shape. Okay. Depending on what you're doing, you might need to mess around with that. But other than that option, and that works the same thing for the sweeps too, as with the sweep cuts. Other than that option, there's not much else to play around with in here. It's pretty simple. Just you need a profile, you need a path, and you might play with this. And in fact, in your beginning example video, we'll show you what to do with this. The merge tangent faces doesn't really have an application right now. So yeah, hope that helps. Go ahead and move on to the next video.